Hey everybody, in this video we're going to be making a trap beat. It's going to sound like this. So we're going to make this trap beat using a free sample pack by Cymatics, okay? So jump onto Cymatics website. The link will be in the video description. That'll take you straight to this starter pack. But you can look at their other free samples as well, and you'll see that they've got a bunch more for different styles of music. So the first thing that we're going to do is we can press tab on the keyboard to jump over to the arrangement view. I prefer to work in the arrangement view. If you prefer to work in this view, no worries, but you can still follow along. When I make a MIDI clip, you can just double click to chuck a MIDI clip in. So when I'm here, I can select the area that I want. So I'm going to make a 4-bar loop. Okay, so 1 bar, 2 bars, 3 bars, 4 bars. So I'll select the 4 bars, go Control-Shift-M, and now I've got that 4-bar loop ready to go. But to start it off, maybe it'll be easier if we actually just work on 1 bar and then we expand out. So we go 1 bar, and we just have a look at this for a brief moment. So the way that this is broken down when we're looking at a trap beat or a dubstep beat, generally speaking, the way I do it is I'll bring your attention to the fact that we have 1 beat, 2 beat, 3 beats, and 4 beats within that 1 bar of music. And generally speaking, I have the kick on the first beat and the snare on the third beat. So kick, snare, kick, snare. So that's the same for trap as it is for dubstep, at least the way I like to arrange it. So if I come here to drums, I can grab a drum rack, I can drag and drop that on that channel, and now I've got a drum rack down here. So if I come back to the samples and I open up that sample pack, I'm going to go to the one-shots and I'm going to come to kicks, and this is the kick here that I like. These are some of the other sounds that are in this free pack. But I like this guy. Drag, drop it in that first cell, and then what I'll do is I'll get a snare as well. They work really nicely together. That's pretty cool too. That for me doesn't have enough body in it. So what I'm listening for is a snare that kind of has a bit of a thud. That's quite nice. I'll use that. Whatever. Drag it in, drop it on the second cell. If I double click the clip, then I get the MIDI clip. I'm now looking inside of it when I double click it. If I've got these 2 tabs down here, so if I want to go back to the rack tab, I can click that, but that's my way to get between the 2. Double clicking just gets me into this tab. I'll put a kick here, snare here. I'll click the clip, Control L on my keyboard to loop it, press spacebar to play it. Sounds a little bit slow, so I'll come here and go 140. Change that to 140 BPM. Okay, now I'll drag that out to 4 bars. And what it's done is it's actually just looped this clip. But I want one big long clip. So what I can do is I can click on it and I can go Control J to consolidate it into one big long clip. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start moving stuff around and playing with the kick and the snare. What I'll do is I'm always going to leave the snare on those beats. I'm not going to move the snare, but I'm going to move the kick, and I'm going to put more kicks in, and I'm going to mess around. And if it ends up taking me a long time, I'll probably fast forward this section, but you'll still be able to see what I'm doing. I'm basically going to be clicking, placing the kick, then listening to see whether I think it sounds right. And if it doesn't, then I'm going to delete it and move it around or do a whole bunch of things. Okay, so first of all, I kind of know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go kick, 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 snare, kick, 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 snare. And then we'll go kick, kick. And then what we'll do here is we'll miss that kick and we'll hit the kick there. So let's have a listen. And we'll do another kick there, right? So we'll go Yeah, that's sweet. And then here, let's have a listen. Let's see whether that works. Okay, I like this part here. I'm not convinced on these parts. So what I'll do is I'll just delete those kicks and I'll go back to the point where I was, where it was actually sounding all right. So that should go. Let's try and put a kick on this sort of backbeat here. Yeah, cool. That sounds really cool. It kind of like almost stutters in a way. I feel like that gives a bit of a stuttering feeling. So we'll play from the beginning again. I feel like I want to do that again. It works really cool. So let's try like this. See what happens. A lot of trial and error. Okay, I don't know whether this is going to be doing it like a bit too much, but let's just try it out and see what we do. It's pretty interesting, but I think maybe it's just going a little bit too far with the stuttering sort of feeling. So let's try that. Okay, I think that's great. So I'm happy with that pattern. I'm not going to change it anymore. And what we'll notice is that actually this pattern here and this pattern here are very similar, just one slight variation. And then this pattern here and this pattern here are very similar and slight variations. But I'm going to say that that's great. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually say that I want the kick and the drum to be on separate channels. I don't want them in the same MIDI clip anymore. So at the moment, they're all contained in this one drum rack. But let's say we want to have it separate. So I can actually just click and drag the cell and drop it out. And now the kick's been taken out and it's been put on its own channel. So I can click on this clip here on the title, go Control R on my keyboard and type kick. And then I can click on this channel, Control R on my keyboard and write snare. And they still sound exactly the same, still the same samples. Just going to delete those two channels there that I don't need. And next, I'm going to rename this. I'm going to call it closed hat. Okay, so this is where I'm going to put my hi-hats. So this trap beat is going to consist of kick, snare, and probably one hat that's slightly varied. So I'm not going to do the 808s in this video because this is just for the beat. The 808 is technically bass, but we'll do that in another video in the future. So I really like this closed hat. And if I come over here, I can go drums, drum rack, drop it in, come back to samples, come back here, click, drag, drop. And I'm going to grab the exact same one and I'm going to put it in another clip. And on that one, I'm going to transpose it, let's say, up 3 semitones. Okay, so one's going to sound natural like that. That one sounds like that. So they slightly sound different from one another. And now we're going to make sure we're on 16th notes. So right click 16th note on the grid. And we're going to make skittering hi-hats. Well, I don't need to keep doing it like that. We can use hotkeys. Cool. So we're going to skitter our hi-hats like that. Cool, and we'll do something to make that more interesting. But for now, we'll keep that as it is. And then let's duplicate that. But we'll delete that. We'll delete that hi-hat that was transposed up, and we'll just keep the regular one. and then we can delete that. And then somewhere in here, what we're going to do is we're going to just start chucking in. Actually, let's do this a different way. So we've got the drum rack. Let's say, how should I do this the best? So I'm just thinking on the fly here because I know that I want to use an arpeggiator to do this instead. I've seen people do it with arpeggiators. I know it's possible. So we'll chuck an arpeggiator on here. What the arpeggiator is going to do is if we went and we drew a big old note and then we just listen to that, you'll notice we can do triplet hats and then 16th notes, and then we can do 32nd, 24, 16, and 12. Okay, so that's a bunch of different timings. So the 12, if you listen to that, if we take those hats out, and then if we add that in, they don't like each other too much, but independently, what we could do is we could say, we will have that play there and then we'll chop that out. So, okay, we'll make that a bit longer. There's something interesting that we could do here. It might take us a little bit of messing around. Don't know whether this is going to work out the best doing it like this, but what we can do is, if we can pause that, and we can automate this to make all of the pattern changes for us. So I've right-clicked that, show automation, automation bar comes up, and then I'm just going to draw in where I think it should go to different patterns. So if I go up that way, it's going quarter notes. If I come down, so now let's listen. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere. Here we can come down and we can go 16ths. And if we go down further, and if we go down again, cool, all right. So let's copy that across so I can copy the automation and duplicate it. And then here what we'll do is we'll go, we'll come down and we'll go 32nd note. And then here we'll come down and go 24. We're just going to play around. I'm just playing around. I don't know whether this is going to sound good. That's too much there. So what we'll do is we'll probably just delete that. But we want to have some variation. So first pattern, second pattern, repeating first pattern, and then this one here, we want it to be different. So what we'll do here as well is we'll delete that all together. Let's come down to 32nd. So we'll go 32nd, 32nd, and then maybe this whole part to be 12. Let's have a listen. Cool. That sounds great. And then we could try some swing. I don't know whether it's going to ruin those faster rates. Let's have a listen. Sounds all right, but maybe if we just keep it straight for now, it'll be probably better. But you can play around with that and give it a bit of swing and groove and whatnot. You can also use a groove pool. I've shown how to use the groove pool in a bunch of my other videos. So we've got an all right beat pattern here. We've abandoned this a little bit. Let's have a listen to them get it together. Yeah, when certain parts of that are overlapping, it really doesn't work. But when it's not, the skittering actually sounds all right. But we'll just delete it. We'll say that's an abandoned idea. That's fine. So we have a beat pattern that would be perfectly fine for arranging with some 808s and the rest of it. So what we'll do is we'll just come over here quickly and we'll see whether this is starting to sound real. Because a drum pattern by itself, you know, they don't sound that interesting. But if you add something into it, so like that, and if I just bring the volume down a little bit, let's have a listen. Cool. It makes it a little bit more real, makes it a little bit more believable. You can imagine that beat working. And to take that even further, yeah, like I said, I'd add some groove to it. I'd mix it so that the kick and the snare and the hi-hats all worked in the right volume and that sort of thing. But for now, that's all I'm going to cover in this video. It's a very simple way of getting a trap beat rolling, and then we'll do some more advanced videos. So hopefully you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next video.